What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the UIBuzz podcast / vlogcast. Now, in this one, I'm going to be doing a game update. For those of you that have been keeping track here, I'm working on getting my game finished, my idle game that I've been building in Unity. And when I say finished, I'm really talking about polishing up and completing the playable demo. Now, demo is really questionable here because it's complete. You can play it, but it's only got a limited amount of bosses. And then you can keep playing it infinitely at this point, or at least that's the plan. Now, the interesting thing is, as I'm wrapping it up, I'm finding those little edge cases, right? And this is something that often happens when you're developing things. You can have the best ticketing system in the world, the best process, everything else, the best testing. There's always going to be those things that come up that are just those little fringe edge cases that you don't find until you get to the very end of the project. And that's to be expected. If you're a developer, you get used to these things, right? Now, as I've been working through them and fixing some of them up, here, I'm going to go through a couple of them because a couple of them still are perplexing me a little bit, which is a little frustrating, and maybe I've done something wrong, or maybe I found a quirk of the system that just doesn't quite work right. So what am I talking about here? Well, first of all, you know, the Android build is fine. Windows build, fine. Mac build, fine. No issues there. Everything's working exactly as I expected. No quirks. Everything seems to be okay. Via a couple of real fringe case bugs that may or may not happen to folks. But this is a free playable demo. So, you know, you kind of almost expected a little bit that it's not quite 100%, because the idea here is that you want folks to give you feedback and say, hey, Peter, we think this is a good idea and you should do this. Or, you know, go make the full thing. Or maybe it stinks, in which case, let it go, right? But the real problem has always been building from Unity into iOS. And I should say the Apple platforms, not including the Mac. So I mean the iPad, I mean the iPhone, you know, all of those type of devices, right? And I'm finding that what's happening is there's a couple of screens that are on the same, it's all in one scene within Unity, if you know what that is. And it's basically a hidden panel that then appears, gets displayed to do some things. You buy the items and then, you know, close the panel. And it's just not working right on the iOS and iPadOS for some reason. It doesn't seem to respect the code that's in place to make it, you know, turn on and off the availability of the items based on how many coins you have. It's just not working. And I can't figure out why. And I have some theories. And the theories themselves just seem so crazy to me that it's almost kind of, no, that can't be it. But I'm going to go into them here because maybe someone else has experienced this and can get back to me and say, oh, here's what's wrong. Or, yeah, that happens to me too, because I'm really at a loss. I'm using Flow Canvas for visual scripting, and these particular items that are having the problems, these game objects, are prefabs. Now, for those of you who don't know what a prefab is, think of it as like an object, right? It's a pre-built object with some graphics and some code and everything else. In this case, it actually doesn't have any code in the prefab, but it's like a little pre-built thing that you can drag and drop onto the stage or whatever. And you know, if you've got 6 of these like I have that are all identical, perfect. Use a prefab. And then when you update one, it updates all the others as far as editing it, right? And then when you're running it, it should just work just fine. Now, the code itself, I have on an instance of each of the prefabs. And at first, I thought that maybe there's some weird thing here and that's the problem. So I stripped off the code from the prefabs and or the instances of the prefabs, I should say. And then I put them on sort of the main display in the game controller, and it sort of fixed some of the problems, right? And it turns on and off now objects to you know, make it editable, touchable, so you can purchase the item or not, depending on if you have enough coin. So great, problem solved. Maybe it's a weird thing with prefab, and I just carried on. But then I noticed a lot of the other code related to it doesn't work as well. So the idea being is that when you touch an item to buy it, what happens is If you no longer have enough coin to buy another one, it turns it off, and it turns off all the other ones you can't buy. And again, this works flawlessly on all the platforms except for iPad and iPhone. It just blows my mind because I can't figure out why it's not doing it. There's no logical reason for it. So that's where I'm at. And I've been spending a couple of days trying to debug this and work it and rebuilding them, making some temporary versions to sort of, longhand code to decode it. And I just can't find a reason for it. And everything that I'm looking at doesn't indicate there's a problem. And again, there certainly is no problem on any of the other platforms. So it's just kind of blowing my mind a little bit what's going on here. Now, the problem here is it means I could release it on all the platforms, but I can't obviously release it for iPad or for the iPhone. And I did notice, I think it may be doing it on a WebGL version too, so you can't play it on the web. Which was really my goal here, was to release it originally on the web, just this playable demo for folks to try it out. So I'm still working through it, and that's kind of my developer update for this week of what's going on. And I hate not knowing why something is not working right, because that almost guarantees it's going to come around and get you again. So I'm going to keep working on it. But if any of you have experienced anything like this, let me know. I almost wonder if there's some kind of asynchronous issue going on here. All of these are triggered via the update, so they happen on every frame update. And maybe there's some ordering system, some quirk with the way that the player on iOS runs in the order of things, and it's some kind of asynchronous issue that I need to resolve. I don't know. I just can't find a reason for it at this time. So that's kind of the update here. Like I say, it's a game developer update this week. Welcome your thoughts. If this has been helpful, you know what to do. All the usual, right? Like, follow, all those things. And please add comments. If you're watching the video, add comments. You can get back to me if you have ideas. You can do @UIBuzz on Twitter, or you can reach out to me at peterwidham.com. I greatly welcome any kind of help on this, because it's kind of blowing my mind a little bit, and it's very frustrating. So that's it, folks. That's what I got for this one. I hope that you're having a great week. And any projects you're working on, I'd love to hear about them, by the way. Let me know. Maybe we can talk about them. I'd love to share other people's projects. And that's it. That's all I got for you. Take care. I'll see you in the next one.